Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our public hearing, which will be followed by our regular meeting of council. Want to acknowledge that where we gather is on the traditional lands of the Lekwungen-speaking people, the Coast and Strait Salish people, who today are represented and known as the Songhees and Esquimalt nations, and that their historic connections to the land continue to this day. I also advise everybody that this is being live streamed and also recorded and available in our archives in the fullness of time. So having said that, I call the meeting to order. These are essentially two public hearings we're going to go through. There are three bylaws to be considered at the public hearing. Bylaws 4697 and 4698, and they relate to a proposed heritage designation and a proposed heritage revitalization agreement at 638 and 644 Beach Drive. There's a second bylaw, which is Bylaw 3531, 102, 2018, and that's a zoning amendment, relates to service business use at an address on St. Patrick Street, 687 and 697 St. Patrick Street. And these bylaws will be introduced at the start of each of those steps by our staff. Now we have, just so you know the context where we are at, we have had initial readings on the bylaw. And we've directed this public hearing to be held tonight. And we're going to start in a minute with the summary of the first set of bylaws. And then we're going to call upon each applicant in turn to make presentations. And then after the applicant has had an opportunity, then the floor will be open to anyone who wishes to speak to us on the proposed bylaws. And we'd ask you, when you are speaking, to give your name and the community you live in. And I think tonight we probably have a little form on the speaking area there so make sure we get the spelling of your name right. And we know how to spell Saanich or Oak Bay and all that, but we may not know how to spell your last name or your first name. So this is a public hearing, and it is mandated by provincial legislation, and for that matter, a series of court rulings that tell us what to do and how to do it. So it is a bit stilted compared to our committee of the whole, and that is because of the mandate of provincial legislation. So, and it is an opportunity for people, residents and non-residents alike, to express their view on the bylaw that we're considering. Council does keep an open mind. We're required to keep that open mind, and we're required to listen. And none of us up here have prejudged the issues. This is not a question and answer period. Again, the courts and the law have said it's strictly us to hear and receive information. So it's not a debate when you get up on the microphone. The debate follows after all the presentations by the applicant and the public, and then we will discuss that amongst ourselves at the subsequent council meeting, which will take place or immediately following this public hearing. So one of the things you want to think about when you come to the microphone is focus on the proposed bylaws. Be as concise as you can. There's no time limit for these hearings, but we do ask you to really focus. We have about an hour before we start the next meeting. Be respectful of each other, and please, there's no interruption by clapping or booing or hissing or whatever. No manifestations of that nature, please. Then, as chair, I will make sure that you stay on topic, and we're all respectful. So if you've received an acknowledgement from our Oak Bay District staff, a copy of your correspondence is included in the agenda package. So you don't have to read it to us, but you can summarize it and speak to the highlights. We all have our iPads here with all the information on there. And if there are any new submissions, they must be read into the record if we don't have them on our iPads here, and that's prior to adjourning. So once the public hearing is finished, then the law prevents us from receiving any new information from either the applicant or the public, either in writing or verbal for that matter. And as I mentioned, depending on what happens on the hearing, we'll go right into the council meeting, and this will be one of the first items on the agenda, both of these bylaws. Okay, so thank you very much for being here tonight. And now I'm going to start with consideration of bylaws 4697, 4698, and I'm going to ask our acting director of Building and Planning, Ms. Jensen, no relation, open brackets, close brackets, to introduce the first of these bylaws. And we're going to look at them together, right, Ms. Jensen? And
Correct.
Ms. Jones. Ms. Jones is here to make sure we keep on track in terms of the steps in the process. So, Ms. Jensen, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first item on this evening's agenda is bylaw number 4697, and that is the bylaw to consider a heritage designation for the home at 638-644 Beach Drive. The existing home at this address was designed by Samuel McClure and constructed in 1927. The home is characteristic of a Georgian revival style with its symmetrical design, brick chimneys, and stucco exterior. It also contains some interior features that the owner is proposing to protect under this bylaw, including 2 fireplaces and a disappearing wall. The process to designate this home is running concurrently with bylaw number 4698, a bylaw to enter into a heritage revitalization agreement for this same property. This agreement, if adopted, would retain the residence in its existing location and require exterior restoration and maintenance of the home. It would also facilitate a 4-lot subdivision of the entire site, with 1 single-family dwelling located on each proposed lot. Through the revitalization agreement, zoning bylaw requirements would also be relaxed for minimum parcel sizes and for lot width, heights, and front lot line setbacks for the existing home.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jensen. We have a number of written submissions, and they need a motion to be received into this meeting. Moved to receive and seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you. Now, we must read any late arriving correspondence. So, Ms. Jones, has there been any of correspondence of that nature that needs to be read into the record?
No, Your Worship. No additional correspondence has been received.
Thank you very much. And at this point, we're going to invite the applicant to speak to the proposal. And then following that, I will open the floor to anyone who deems their interest in the property affected to come forward and speak to us. So who is going to be speaking on behalf of the applicant? And if you wouldn't mind, so we all know who you are, you can identify yourself and your position, and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Just so I'm clear, is this all set to?
I think it's this one, is it? Yeah. I'm new at this.
Me too.
There we go. We're starting now. The technology is warming up. Okay, we got 1 out of the 3. There we go. And
Are we in the clear?
nope.
Oh, okay.
We got brought back to 2 out of the 3. There we go. We got 3 for 3. And as soon as that one comes on, I'm going to give you the green
There
light.
we
There
go.
we go. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much for the help. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Adam Cooper. I'm a development manager at Abstract Developments, and I'm representing the applicant for 644 Beach Drive HRA. I'm a registered professional planner through the Planning Institute of British Columbia, and I'm also supported by my highly qualified team that's worked on this application. We have Zebra Design of Oak Bay that's worked on the renovation for the house, Murdoch to Grief, a local landscape architect, and also Donald Luxton and Associates out of Vancouver, who are the preeminent consultants in terms of preparing heritage conservation plans for projects such as this. In respect of council's time and recognizing that we only have an hour and that we have presented to you previously at Committee of the Whole, and we are coming forward with a unanimous vote of support from the Heritage Commission, I will try to move through my presentation quickly. And I do have, you'll see there's a lot of information in my presentation. I won't be going through all of it unless you have specific questions we can turn our attention to. So the project itself is located between Newport Ave and McMimming Point on the north side of Beach Drive in South Oak Bay. As Ms. Jensen mentioned, the existing Boyd residence, constructed in around 1927, straddles two legal lots today, 644 and 638 Beach Drive. The current zoning at the property is RS2, which if you were to develop those two lots in an as-of-right scenario, you would be looking at two homes of approximately 11,500 square feet plus a basement. The OCP designation on these lands is established neighborhoods. And as I mentioned, constructed in 1927, a notable house in the community, but currently lacking a heritage designation untitled today, which is obviously part of our proposal to properly designate this heritage resource. In terms of the process, the property was purchased in April 2015. Neighbor consultation began in the fall of 2015, has been ongoing since then. With some significant efforts, I would say, in the past 4 months to really address concerns that have come forward from immediate neighbors. The Heritage Revitalization Agreement itself was submitted back in April of 2017. As I mentioned, Oak Bay Heritage gave us unanimous support in July. Council's considered this application once already at Committee of the Whole on September 18th, and we came through our first and second reading on January 22nd of this year. I wanted to note as well, the current application is for a 4-lot subdivision. Initially, we had looked at this project as a possible demolition of the existing home and a 5-lot subdivision that would mirror what's next door to us on Inglewood. Staff indicated that there was not really any support for that house to come down, so we came back with this revised proposal that we feel is balanced and sensitive to the existing heritage home. The conservation plan itself was prepared, that's McClure there, just for the record, in case anyone's curious. The conservation plan itself was developed by Donald Luxton Associates out of Vancouver. As I mentioned, they are really the true experts in this field. The significance of this home is its connection to the Boyd family that lived here originally. It's a location overlooking Beach Drive and the waterfront in South Oak Bay. The rock base of the home, the Georgian Revival style, which is a bit of a departure for McClure from his typical half-timber Tudor-style homes. This represents something very different than what you generally see. The rough cast stucco, the symmetrical design, and a very restrained ornamentation on the home. And as Deborah mentioned as well, the interior features that will also be designated include a unique drop wall system, that was really McClure sort of innovating in his time and trying some new technologies. And there's some unique carved heads on the mantles of 2 fireplaces that will also be designated. Just wanted to provide a couple of quick shots of the house here, just in case anyone's unfamiliar with it. These are in your package, so I won't spend too much time going through these. There's the 2 sides of the house with the tacked on garage that's not quite functional today. We did have an occupant in this house for over 2 years. The garage floods and is not accessible with the steep grade that comes down there. So we think that we've designed quite a period sensitive addition that improves the livability of the house and deals with some of these tack-ons that have sort of taken away, I guess, from the original character of the home. There's the carved heads on the mantles that you see there and the drop wall system, which, to be honest, I've been too afraid to operate myself for fear of destroying it and not being able to get it back up into the ceiling. The subdivision application itself is designed to meet the intent of the RS4 zoning requirements. RS4 zoning being consistent with the Inglewood subdivision to the west of us. Those lots are also RS4 lots, and as well as across the street on South Beach Drive, we're looking at RS4 lots there, and also on Radcliffe Lane, I believe it is. Just a note that all of the lots that we're proposing exceed the minimum lot size for the RS4 zone, so we're larger than the minimum lot size required in all cases here. As I mentioned, we feel we're contextually consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. We do require a couple of minor variances, particularly around the existing house and the way that Oak Bay Planning Department has determined what property lines are front lot lines, rear lot lines, etc. It's a bit of a tricky process on these lots because they're not, perfect rectangles. So the sort of standard rules of the zoning bylaw are a bit trickier to apply here. But those variances can be rationalized through the HRA framework, which allows for those exact type of variances to happen when we're proposing to restore and designate a significant heritage resource in the community. Pardon me. I just wanted to note a couple of changes that we did make since the last time council saw this at committee of the whole. We've worked quite intensively with a neighbor in Inglewood to address some significant concerns that were raised about noise and light pollution, and also headlights that would be tracking against the neighbor's house as vehicles enter the property. So we've committed to planting a plant species of their choosing that would come, we're trying to grow this thing to 12 feet high. You can see the little diagram below. We've actually 3D modeled this entire site with our architect and surveyor, and we've been able to do some really great work around looking at the view cones that people might want to try to preserve, and also how these passing vehicles would cast light or shadow on the adjacent properties. So we've come to an agreement with the neighbor after addressing a number of those concerns in terms of the planting material and height. We've also, in that red square that you see on the landscape plan, we had originally proposed a visitor parking bay. That visitor parking bay was removed. We've also increased the width of that landscape buffer at the request of the neighbor. It was initially 10 feet wide, and we've managed to shove the road slightly closer to the existing heritage home and increase that separation to 15 feet from the 10 that was originally proposed. There's been some comments about the preservation of trees on the site. You may be familiar with it, but the upper lots are essentially just exposed rock. But we do have a stand of Gary oaks at the rear of the property that would be preserved through the plan as well. And any bylaw protected tree that falls outside of a building envelope has been accounted for using Oak Bay's 2-to-1 replacement ratio. So we are fully compliant with best practices, so to speak, on the site. I'm going to leave it there. I do have a lot more information in your package. Just to say, essentially, though, that we feel we are consistent with the goals of the district's official community plan. There's a lot of points that we can speak to about preserving these heritage resources in the community and the desire from the residents of Oak Bay to see that happen, and also the ability possibly to subdivide some of these larger lots to do sensitive single-family infill housing. We feel that this application represents a best case scenario for the site. We're going to have this wonderful heritage resource in the community designated, restored. It's going to be a beautiful home when it's completed, and we feel it'll be an excellent addition to the neighborhood. Overall, we feel like we've done an excellent job of mitigating potential impacts, and we have done extensive consultation with the neighbors, including entering into an agreement with one of the neighbors to make some specific changes to address specific concerns that were provided to us. So on that note, I'll turn it back to you guys, and I guess you'll take it from there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Now I'm going to invite people to come forward and speak at the podium with the microphone there. Make sure it's you're fairly close to it so people can hear you who are watching live, and also so it's properly recorded. So I ask for the first time, please come forward. Okay, thank you. Some may have to adjust that height from time to time. We're going to ask you to state your name. We're going to ask you to tell us what community you live in, and then also ask you to, when you get a moment, just to write it down on that list.
Mayor Jensen, excuse me, Mayor Niels Jensen, members, council members, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Romeo Sanglap. I am a retired physician, and I first moved in 630 Beach Drive, mid-70s. So I think I'm one of the oldest residents in that area. I noted that my next door neighbor, Dr. David Boyd, a pediatrician, was a colleague and also a friend. So he invited me to go to this house and size it up. And indeed, I went to the house, and it's a very beautiful space inside. And as you go up, you could see the sea and the treetops. So when I went back to my house, I look at the ocean, and I look at the trees, and I found out that these are beautiful things. Indeed, I think there was a poet called Edgar Allan Poe, whatever it is. He said that a thing of beauty is a joy forever. So, with the construction that is being planned now, as I see, it will really remove that beauty for the rest of our life and that joy. So I object to it. Yours truly.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Is this okay? Okay, thanks. So my name is Maureen Murray, and I live at 614 Inglewood Terrace, and have done so since 1985. So my property is adjacent to the proposed new subdivision at 638-644 Beach Drive. And I have a number of concerns about what is proposed to be done. I can appreciate the wanting to make this a heritage house, but I think there is a lot being given for that I don't agree with. So in lot number 2, so the concerns I have over the proposed are about the whole proposition, because there are two things as I understand it. There is a proposal for subdivisions, and there's proposal for a number of variances. So on lot number 2, which is what would ultimately become where the current Boyd House is that there are actually 6 variances being requested. 3 of them are the ones that are most concerning to me. There's a front yard setback on the north side, and it's requesting a variance of almost 20 feet for the setback. I feel that is somewhat excessive to be allowed. The setback, also very concerning about what are the setback precedents going to be in other homes should this new subdivision be approved. Also, building height is going to be increased by 2 feet, and occupiable height by almost 4 feet. What is being proposed is not simply a restoration of this house, it's a significant enlargement of this house as well. There's going to be the gables to the side, which are quite large and impact my view and my privacy, and gables both to the front and the back. And so I have some significant concerns about all of this. You know, I've been a resident of Oak Bay and a contributor to the community since 1985. This is going to impact me significantly, both from the point of view of privacy, from my light, my views. You guys should have water up here. And my views. Also, too, at the end of my street, it's a blind street. This will be a little bit more traffic that will come and go, which is somewhat of a concern, but my major concern is the amount of development that's going to go on here. How much blasting should this go forward, be allowed? What's that going to do to how the water comes down from the hill, from Anderson Hill Park? What are those impacts going to be on the whole area? And I, as you can see, I generally just don't support this application for this subdivision, and I don't support these variances that are being asked for. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm wondering if staff could comment on what process there would be for subdivision as opposed to the two bylaws we have, and what the distinction is.
Sorry, if I could ask for a bit more clarification on that, specifically which piece?
Well, there was the speaker talked about opposing a subdivision. So just if you could speak to what the process for subdivision is as opposed to what we're doing here tonight. And who decides on subdivision versus who decides on heritage designation and heritage agreements.
So council has two bylaws in front of them tonight, one about the designation of the home and one whether council wishes to enter into an agreement for the heritage revitalization. So considering a 4-lot subdivision in exchange for works to the home and designating that home. Right within the heritage revitalization agreement is a clause that agreement does not guarantee subdivision. That still falls under the realm of the approving officer for the district. So council's not deciding on the subdivision itself.
Thank you. I just wanted to make that quite clear. That's not an issue before us. Thank you. Next speaker, please. Yep, go ahead.
My name's John Barron, and I live at 650 Beach Drive in Oak Bay, and we have a long property common line with the proposal. I'd like to point out, first of all, in Schedule A of the Heritage Revitalization Agreement, in Section C, it says, for the purpose of conservation of the heritage value and heritage character of the lands refer to the 2 lots. The owner and district have agreed to enter into this agreement, setting out the terms and conditions of continuing protection for the heritage value and heritage character of the lands. So that seems to refer to the 2 lots. Everybody knows, I guess, that I've sent in quite a lot of writings on the whole issue because of impacts it might have on our property. I'd like to kind of summarize how we got to where we got to. First of all, the original layout by whoever laid it out years ago was to have a series of very large lots in that area close to the golf course, and I think the goal was to have large lots with large houses in a very nice style, and probably would now be considered heritage organization. But the Boyd lots were never split because Boyd's built on both lots, overlapping both lots, so that kind of got that stuck for a long, long time. The family had the house, I think, ever since it was built. So our question is it valid to change the original intention and layout of those lots when they obviously had thought about the future in advance of that part of the neighborhood? The thing now is that if we do not accept the proposal that's being given, and it looks like there's been a lot of thought gone into it, somebody might come along and buy the 2 lots and want to divide it into 6 houses or some other plan which might be totally unacceptable at that time. So looking forward, then one doesn't really know what would happen if the plan isn't approved right now. So just a thought of, this is sort of the agonies we've been going through. We've been trying to work this thing out. We've had some contact with the Millers and Abstract about all of this, and we feel that their intentions are to ensure positive effects on the neighbors' properties in both comfort, safety, views, property protection with the construction issues, and our ultimate value of properties. In the presentation, the subdivision plan that Millers gave us, It says certain standards will be met for housing design, ensuring a consistent design language and high-quality finished product. We were thinking we'd give them some design language to operate to, but I don't think that's probably appropriate. Anyway, the designs are required to reflect the heritage character for the lands per Schedule A. So one has to kind of assume that you're not going to get a hodgepodge of odd houses in around the heritage house that take away from the heritage value. Getting down to some other issues, the 2-for-1 trees issue, where we have our sort of southwesterly view, we see over the trees on the Beach Drive Lot 1. They're not very high, so if they take some of those out and stick tall ones in, we'd be really unhappy, and that wouldn't be very considerate. So some consideration has got to be given as to the type of replanting and whether they go on Lot 1 or up the top on the other lots, which may upset other people. We've submitted these comments and requests to the Millers in abstract. We understand that it's their intention to adhere to property value and comfort and some of the, or probably most of the suggestions we've made. Their plan, as laid out, does consider the neighborhood, the driveway and landscaping for the driveway area fits the topography of the two lots. It twists around the lot and up towards the back. It's far better than having a road going straight up through the middle of the thing, and lots of blasting and all sorts of weird stuff going on. It's really a conforming proposition, which seems to be well thought out. We understand that the driveway will have good landscaping and design qualities and some character to it. A reference to make judgment on might be the 568 and 578 Ion Road properties, where they have a very nice driveway in a circular area. But it's well thought out and planned and presented very nicely. So it's not something where you stick a piece of tarmac up there and a bunch of driveways off it. One consideration we have, and I don't mean to offend anybody in Oak Bay employment or anything like that, but we have a little bit of concern about Oak Bay's ability to enforce bylaws and whether the bylaws are strong enough to be enforced. And I make reference to 685 Beach Drive, where we have looked at a god-awful mess for 15 years, and it was messy before we got there. And now it's gone downhill since the fire broke out. It's got a blue tarp roof, which appears to be going to be there as a permanent fixture. We understand that they've had two substantial offers for the property and turned them down, but they like a house boarded up with a blue tarp roof. We don't like that. So we feel Oak Bay needs to play a role in making sure things go through properly. Anyway, to summarize, we're not against the application because we think that the design thinking and layout is actually quite appropriate for the property. We think also that if it goes through now, it might prevent something unfortunate happening down the road if somebody picks up the two lots. I mean, I might even be interested in doing that, but you know, then somebody might stand up and complain about my plan. But we feel that the Schedule A and the Miller's plans conform to Schedule A, and so on that basis, we're basically in favor of it. I should put my name down here somewhere.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barron.
Hi, John.
Next speaker, please.
Can work? Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, it's fine. My name is Grant Glowicki. I also border on the property. We're a little bit above John, so we're in the top east-hand side. I am in favor of the proposed development. I think just in fear of what could happen down the road, where you've got these two huge lots, which will likely be sold for a lot of money, and the new owners will be probably building out to the max. You know, that's an exposure we will see, and I just can't see it being as pleasing as a couple homes, well thought out, complementing one another. It's just, I mean, I think I like to see it stay the way it is, but the reality is it's just not going to be the reality in today's day and time. Out our dining room and our kitchen, we see the home that he's talking about putting the money into. And it's, I think, a wonderful exposure. We're used to it. There's some trees around which will soften it. The addition he's proposing is way nicer than what's there right now. It is a broken down carport, it looks like. It looks uninhabitable. And again, I think, you know, the reality is it is going to get built on. I would sooner see one person come in, devote a lot of what I think could be good taste. You know, that we drive by that lot every day, and the way it is right now, it's one of the most unpleasing parts of Beach Drive. I mean, to fix up the front, the street appeal, an attractive driveway going up, cohesive design criteria on the homes, it would become, I think, a really wonderful address along Beach Drive. I would like to see it stay the way it is, but that's just not the reality. So I am in favor of the proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Glowicki. Next speaker, please.
Ladies first. Okay. Sorry, I'm short.
Tall first and then short.
My name is Helen Edwards. I live in Victoria. I am a professional heritage consultant, and I am speaking on behalf of myself and my colleague Donald Lexton from Vancouver, who could not be here tonight. This project will restore a very significant heritage property in Oak Bay, which has been overlooked for far too long. It is in less than adequate condition. It needs work, and this proposal will do that work. It will remove unsympathetic additions. It will make the property usable again, because I don't know if you've seen the pictures of the driveway, but anybody that can do that, they're on a luge or a skeleton or something. You can't drive a car down there. So this proposal will rectify that. It will make it livable again. And I can't emphasize how important this property is, because it was the home of a very important lumberman. And as you know, lumber was one of the main industries of British Columbia in the early 20th century. And for those reasons, I am in favor. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I used to be taller. My name's Don Harrison. I live on Linkley's Avenue in Oak Bay, which, if we could go in a straight line, would probably go right to where this property is. We moved from Vancouver a couple of years ago, so you can boo if you want. But, it's better than Alberta, I guess. And the idea was there to escape what we're now seeing here. This builder is putting a 5-story building and something like 80 suites where there were 3. Now, if anybody, that's Cadborough Bay, right? There was a lot of people weren't too pleased about that. And everybody here seems to have we've got a negative attitude. Oh, well, that's the reality. No, there's no such thing. The only reality is what you make. And if nobody stands up and says, well, the birds like to live there, the other animals like to live there, people want to breathe, which is sort of what trees do for us. And Mr. Luxton, for all his skill, I was a 30-year journalist with the Sun and Province. I worked with the person. I wrote things about, read his books. anybody thinks what's happening with older homes in Vancouver is good has been asleep for the last 25 years. Like Shaughnessy, which I live next to on the other side of the railroad tracks, but we all went to the same school. It's appalling. Everything that's green is gone. It's just housing. Now here's a person on this house on Beach. They've obviously let it become a slum. Now we're going to reward them with how much money? Why? Why? Why aren't all these houses pre a certain era designated as heritage and you work backwards? That way, it's not a defeatist attitude. Everybody every time there's one of these meetings, I've been to dozens. I was at the widening the Lionsgate Bridge meetings when I lived in the West End. Everybody has absolutely zero confidence in local councils and staff to give the people who live here anywhere near the same opportunities that the developers have. Concert Properties made a fortune from Expo. They're over here building. All sorts of other names. It's the same people. So it's going to be the same thing over again. And if anybody thinks it's just going to sort of one or two places and it's not going to make any difference. A place like Santa Fe, for example, no suburbs. You go outside the city limits, 5 acres is the minimum. There's all sorts of, so that's this thing about, well, it's reality, we can't do anything about it. No, it's not. If people here want to stand up and they don't like it, then it's your job to listen to them because you've been elected by them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison.
Oh, I'm supposed to sign this, aren't I?
Yep. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? I call for a second time.
Excuse me.
Good evening, Michael Prince. I live on Prospect Place, and I'd like to speak to the two bylaws, which concern two really valuable heritage tools, heritage designation and a heritage revitalization agreement. Two tools which I think a lot of people would like to see used much more frequently and regularly, and dare I say a third tool, a heritage conservation areas as a tool. I'm pleased about this conversation for 3 or 4 reasons. One, we're hearing about a developer who was open to persuasion from conversations with staff and with neighbors, with an self-admitted intent initially to demolish a lovely old home, but through the course of dialogues and meetings and conversations has come around to the view that this is a diamond in the rough that's worth preserving for all sorts of reasons. There's hundreds of Samuel McClure homes around, both on the island. Indeed, there might be close to 1,000 in BC. But this one is certainly worth saving, and I'm delighted to see that that's the view that's come around. So the bylaw on going for a heritage designation, I think, is an important step, substantive step about heritage conservation in our area, safeguarding an historic structure with tremendous heritage values. You know, any proposals about balancing private interests and the public good. And it's your job to decide what that balance is. But between these two bylaws, there's not a bad balancing act being undertaken. It might not be perfect, but I think another thing I'm pleased about in this is the fact that there's, in terms of traffic circulation, one way in, one way out. It helps to minimize the impact on the topography and the natural rock of the area. And it really follows and respects the contours of the site. So I think that's a welcome feature of this proposal as well. And I think in terms of the infill opportunities here, the 3 lots, not excessive in my view. And I think the key here would be for council to their powers, to the extent they are available to you, to ensure that the 3 new properties are truly built in a way that they respect the heritage character of the lands. I'm encouraged the fact that Donald Luxon was part of, I've seen the plans for the rehabilitation, the restoration, and preservation of the McClure House. It's going to be brought back to a quality that we've not seen probably for more than 50 years. And I would love to see 3 new properties built around it that reflect and reinforce the time and money and trouble that's going to be taken to bring that diamond back to a shining gem, to not to have boxes built around it, but homes that are sympathetic to the legacy of Samuel McClure. So I think we have a tremendous opportunity here with these 2 bylaws to advance heritage in our community. Thank you very much.
All right, I call for the third and last time for speakers.
Hi, Anthony Miro, South Oak Bay. I just had a question about, are we going to get any parkland contribution or cash in lieu for this development? I didn't see that in the report anywhere.
Thank you very much. We'll capture that question and we'll have staff address
Okay,
it.
one more thing is I didn't notice any variances in the report, and the first time I saw them was in the ad in the Oak Bay News, so it would be nice to know that ahead of time. And the other thing is that right now you can't really see the house. It's on a scenic drive, so we're going to have a house in front of it. We're losing 27 trees, so I think that's an issue. I don't know if we're any better off seeing the house when the development's been done. I don't have any problem otherwise, but I don't think there's going to be a super lot of benefit, especially if the hedge in front of it stays there, because all we can see is the upstairs windows and the roof. I suppose the other houses will get to see it, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mears. Seeing no other people at the microphone. Oh, sorry, you were just coming from without. Okay, that's fine. So your name, your community, and write your name and your community down on that list, please.
All right, I'll do that after. My name is Michael Williams. I grew up in South Oak Bay, and I now live in North Oak Bay. And I've seen the kind of development proposal, which I think looks great. Can appreciate the kind of beauty of the character, but I'm a big modern architecture fan, so kind of like to see that mix. And yeah, and the kind of lot sizes and everything seem very reasonable to me, and the fact that the heritage restoration is taking place, I think is nice. So that was it.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. All right. Is there someone else coming forward? Yes, okay.
I have to read my script.
Maybe you can text it to it and we can read it.
Well,
We're all high tech up here.
Your Worship and members of council, my name's Martin Whitehead. I live at 532 Beach Drive, just a few houses down from this proposal. The great thing about where I live is that we have a fantastic view over McNeil Bay. Unfortunately, over the last few years, we've also had a fantastic view over a number of Oak Bay's character homes getting barged to the San Juan Islands. So this heritage revitalization proposal is an opportunity to retain and restore architecturally significant home designed by one of Victoria's most notable architects. I'm concerned that if this proposal is rejected and the property is developed under its current zoning, there is a strong possibility this house will end up on a barge like many others have before it. And in its place, 2 considerably larger homes, which could negatively affect its neighboring views. So we know that the proponent has a proven track record on this kind of development. You only have to look as far as Edgecliff on Foul Bay Road to know they're capable of accomplishing first-class mix of heritage revitalization together with new construction. So I believe the increased density is a reasonable compromise that offsets the high cost of preserving this important part of Oak Bay's past. So as a member of this neighborhood, I give this proposal my full support. Thank you.
All right, now I don't see anyone else coming forward. Thank you very much. As I said, we would do at the outset, the next step here is to adjourn the public hearing, as there are no further submissions or comments, and then we will reconvene on the issue when we go to the council meeting. Okay? That's on this, so it's adjourning this public hearing on these bylaws. We're going to then go on to the next one. Moved and seconded to adjourn the public hearing. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much. We continue, however, with bylaw number 3531.102, comma 2018. I think I got it. I think I had 2 commas there last time. And so, Ms. Jensen, would you give us an overview and describe the purpose of the bylaw, please?
Yes, Your Worship, the last item on this evening's agenda is Bylaw 3531.102, which would permit service business use at 687 and 697 St. Patrick Street. This bylaw, if adopted, would include service business use in the local commercial use zone, which is C1, and the central stores building at this address is the only property within the municipality affected by that C1 zone. The existing zone currently allows for hair salons and retail sale of groceries and sundry household items. The service business use would take that a step further by allowing uses in the building for providing personal services to persons or their possessions, as well as office use. It does specifically exclude businesses such as financial institutions, veterinary clinics, laundries, and vehicle servicing. At this time, there is no exterior changes or building expansion proposed for the site.
Thank you, Ms. Jensen. Written submissions are next, and they must be received. Motion to receive, please.
Proceed.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. The motion carries. Thank you. The next is to ask Ms. Jones if there's any late items that you need to read into the record.
No, Your Worship.
All right. Then the applicant. Is the applicant here? I invite the applicant to come forward, and following that, I'll open up the floor to the public. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. My name's Anoop Graywal. I own the Central Stores building at 687, 697 St. Patrick Street. I'm also a resident of Oak Bay at 3250 Beach. Mostly just came here to answer any questions, if there were any, from the public. But the application is quite simple.
Thank you very much, and it has been considered at Committee of the Whole, as I mentioned at the outset. Thank you very much, Mr. Grewal. Now, I'm just going to get my iPad in the right location. Thank you very much. I'm going to call on anyone who wishes to speak to this issue to come forward for the first time. I'm going to call for anyone wishing to speak to this issue to come forward for the second time. And for the third time, I will once again call if anyone is interested in speaking to us on this issue. Seeing none, I therefore call for a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Adjournment. Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. And now I ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting itself.
Move adjournment.
Second.
And a note, we will reconvene as council in about 5.5, 6 minutes. Okay? All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Sorry, thank you.